Welcome to the 5-Minute English Vocabulary Podcast. My name is Herbert Lee, and I'll be your host. Now you can easily improve your vocabulary without memorizing long lists of boring words, and still develop a powerful command of English. You'll learn the origin of words, or etymology, told as easy-to-remember stories. You'll also hear some jokes, and learn some idioms as well. Episode 9. Hodge Podge. What is a hodgepodge? A hodgepodge is a mixture of various things that don't fit well together. It can be an artistic or aesthetically pleasing creation, but it can also be a mess. Some people use the term to describe their personal lives. They are living in a hodgepodge of different relationships and experiences. To others, a hodgepodge is simply something that's not neatly organized or planned. It's more like a collection of odds and ends. The word hodgepodge originates from Old French. In France, there's an old stew recipe for vegetables and meat called hodgepodge. Hocher means to shake in French, and it was basically a bunch of ingredients thrown or shaken into a pot. I grew up in Nova Scotia, Canada, and there is a dish there called Nova Scotia hodgepodge. Nova Scotia hodgepodge is a seasonal vegetable dish without any meat. It must contain new potatoes, carrots, wax beans, and green beans, and it's cooked in heavy cream and butter sauce. It's most likely that this hodgepodge came from the Acadian settlers who farmed the New World land. The Acadians are descended from the original French settlers. Hodgepodge used in a sentence. In America, recycling programs for plastic bottles are a hodgepodge. Each state does its own thing. Another word similar to hodgepodge is potpourri, Potpourri, and it has many meanings. Potpourri is a musical medley. It can also be a collection of miscellaneous literary extracts. Potpourri is any mixture, especially of unrelated objects, subjects, etc. It's also a mixture of dried petals of roses or other flowers, mixed with spices and kept in a sachet or a jar for their fragrance. The word potpourri comes from the French word pot, meaning container, and pourri, meaning rotten. This is because in the early days of potpourri, people would add old, rotting flowers to the mixture to give it a stronger scent. Here's a sentence using potpourri. The final result is a delicious potpourri of flavors. Mishmash. A mishmash is a hodgepodge, a jumble, or a mess. A mishmash is a collection of different things that are put together without any real order. The word mishmash comes from Yiddish, mashe. Here it is in a sentence. A mishmash is really a mixed bag, a hot mess, and a pile of junk. Smorgasbord. A smorgasbord is a buffet-style meal where guests can choose from many different items. It's a great way to get a variety of food in one place. Another word for smorgasbord is buffet. The Swedish word smorgasbord consists of the word smorgas, meaning sandwich, usually an open-faced sandwich, and board, which means table. Here's smorgasbord used in a sentence. This holiday meal is really about food, which means there can be a dozen or more side dishes in a smorgasbord of flavors. So now here's a smorgasbord of idioms using food. Spring chicken. In the U.S., chicken farmers sold most of their chickens in the spring, and so birds at that time or just before were much more valuable than the older birds that survived the winter. Some farmers tried to sell the old birds at the same price as the younger ones. Buyers with a keen eye would know not to buy a bird that was no spring chicken. So, the term came to represent anything or anyone past their prime. The phrase no spring chicken is usually used in a negative way to describe someone who who is no longer young, probably past his young adulthood, and sometimes doesn't realize it and tries to look and act younger than his actual age. Here's an example. I don't know how old Mike is, but obviously he is no spring chicken. Happy as a clam. It's important to know the rest of this saying, which is, happy as a clam at high tide. Why? Because clams are only harvested when the tide is out, so when it's high tide, they're safe and therefore happy. Someone who is happy as a clam is very content about life. Cool as a cucumber. There's a good reason why a cucumber is used as the best example of being cool, and it's entirely down to the fact that however hot or cold the weather is, the middle of a cucumber, the core of the cucumber, is usually 11 degrees Celsius or 20 degrees Fahrenheit colder than its outside temperature. When we say someone is cool as a cucumber, we are really saying that nothing really bothers them. To know one's onions. A myth has grown up that this is a reference to a British lexicographer called Charles Talbot Onions, who worked on the Oxford English Dictionary and was so knowledgeable that his name became linked to the word expertise. In fact, to know one's onions comes from the U.S., where it was just one of many expressions that included know your apples or know your oats. Someone who knows their onions is very knowledgeable about whatever they're talking about. Bring home the bacon. In the 16th century Europe, being able to afford pork was considered a sign of great wealth. So a man who could bring home the bacon was more than providing for his family. When he entertained friends, he would cut off a piece of bacon or pork and give it to them to eat. They would sit around and chat for a long time. And this is where we get the saying, chew the fat. Hi, I'm joined today with my daughter Liesel, and we're going to give you a hodgepodge of food jokes.
Man, I hope all these food jokes don't make us hungry.
Yeah. My friend left our local Indian restaurant without paying. The next day he got very sick.
I'm guessing it was bad korma.
I like both kinds of British cuisine.
You mean fish and chips?
What's the first step to preparing American cuisine?
Open the box, cut the plastic wrapper, and put it in the oven.
Hey, do you know why McDonald's doesn't serve escargot?
It's not fast food.
What do you call a fake noodle?
An impasta.
So a Buddhist monk walks into a pizza shop and says, "Can you make me one with everything?" Did you hear about the Italian chef that died while cooking?
He pasta away.
I had a joke about pizza I was going to tell you, but it was way too cheesy. I just couldn't decide which Asian takeout food I liked the best, Japanese or Chinese.
I ended up calling it a Thai.
What do you call a sad strawberry?
A blueberry.
If anyone gets a message about canned meat from me, do not open it.
It is spam.
Why do watermelons have fancy weddings?
Because they can't elope.
Why did the poor man steal a bunch of yeast?
He needed to raise some dough.
I finally got over my addiction to chocolate, marshmallow, and nuts.
I'm sure it was a rocky road.
Which U.S. state has the smallest canned beverages?
Minnesota.
What do you call a pea who woke up on the wrong side of the bed?
grumpy.
So that's our episode on Hodge Podge. I think you got a lot out of that. Next week, new materials, part 1. Until then, it's Herbert Lee saying bye for now.